Let's discuss some use cases about how the crowd has fueled Indeni in automating risk analysis and best practices. Now, as a quick recap, for those that are new to the solution, we'll be going over use cases that our platform addresses to date, how the community fuels growth of our platform, and how to even use our platform in the first place. So I'm going to start off this session on use cases with Brad, but I'm going to kick it off really quick by talking about one of my favorites here. Now, in the world of Palo Alto, every packet that goes through the firewall is in some way or in some shape or form being counted or being attributed to some packet statistic. And we call this the global counter, or in the world of Palo Alto, they call it the global counter. And there you can identify for what reasons a packet was parsed and allowed through, or for what reason the packets might have been dropped. Now, what's great about this is that there's a multitude of reasons why packets can be dropped, and immediately Palo Alto will tell you, for visibility purposes, for what reason. So what we do is we run an API query that collects those counters, and we'll track the rate at which it's increasing, and we'll tell you for what purposes those packets are being dropped, whether it's because an SSL decryption module failing, or if it's because it's enabled to be routed, or if a policy is being hit at certain cases. Now, that's just one use case, and as I understand it, syslog can be a compliance issue. And Brad, I'd love for you to share your experience here.
Sure. So from a compliance perspective, one of the things you can do with the firewall is require that it is logging traffic in order to be passing traffic. That's done basically by using a TCP syslog server, and with the TCP handshake, you'll know that it's not receiving traffic. And if it's not receiving traffic, then that could be a service impacting event because it would discontinue passing traffic through the firewall. So that's something to be aware of, and is a concern as far as compliance goes. And Indeni can give you peace of mind that that's functioning as expected. One other important thing to point out maybe with compliance is that it's important to monitor NTP, make sure that's functioning as well. And that is important because it makes sure that your timestamps are appropriate in your logging. So when you go back to look up an event, you know exactly what time that it happened. As far as compliance goes too, one great way to find out how others are handling their compliance concerns is to post a question in the Indeni crowd, and most likely you aren't the first person to try to figure it out. But if you are the first person to work with that type of an issue, it's best, or it's great if you can help out others by posting it in the community. So compliance is an important factor, but from a networking perspective, which I get into a lot more, is high availability is very important in that aspect. One of the things that we can look at there is keep alives and making sure that keep alives are being received on the interface. And if keep alives are not being received, that could be indicating a switch failure or even a configuration failure on the switch, preventing communication between the two firewalls. So failover in general, it's pretty hard to know why, when, or how it fails to function, and especially prior to a failover event. So Indeni tends to solve this issue without over alerting. Seems like direct messages from the firewall itself can cause a significant amount of white noise, especially during an upgrade process.
It's certainly important to track high availability. Indeni also tracks this if clustering mechanisms can fail. So definitely got a lot of different use cases there. I do apologize, Brad, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Let's continue talking about this. Keep thinking about how difficult it would be to maintain these boxes without knowing what is critical. So sorry, Brad, do you mind continuing? Do you mind speaking to this a little bit?
Sure. Let's jump into maintenance here on the system issues. And I have a couple of examples here I'd like to talk about, I think. Hard drive issues, hard drive failures in particular, is where I'd start out. If a drive fails in a RAID on the firewall, it keeps working, right? But you certainly want to know when a drive fails and schedule a maintenance window to take care of that. Another important thing is SSL certificate expiration dates. This is something that I've noticed with Indeni prior to a problem. And you certainly don't want the entire company calling when your decryption certificate expires or web server prevents users from being able to access it. And that's definitely important to have that proactive look into those particular use cases. Jumping into best practices, misconfigurations. One of the things that I've experienced there is a DNS misconfiguration. And I've had Indeni alert me of DNS failures, which caused a number of issues. One of those being system updates, no longer being able to get antivirus signatures and that sort of thing. And as it turned out, when that alert was triggered by Indeni, I discovered the root cause of that was that a DNS server was retired by the server team. And that's what caused all of the failures. So it's important to get that alert in a timely manner and be able to respond to that and know what it was quickly. Also, let's go back to RAID briefly here. One of the things that Indeni can do, like I said, is alert when a drive fails in a RAID configuration. One of the other things it can do, though, is it can tell you when you only had one drive to begin with. And what that does is, so if you have like a 50/20 firewall and you ordered it, you intended to order it with 2 hard drives, but you really only ordered it with 1 hard drive. The best practice analysis in Indeni can alert you that the RAID was set up with only 1 drive. And obviously that isn't exactly a RAID configuration. So you want to take a look at that.